All right, everybody. I'm sorry I didn't give you any advance notice on this at all, but we've been having a great conversation in one of the posts here in the group about Kerf. And so I'm going to teach you Kerf really quick with just a very simple example, and a bunch of you are going to get it right away. So I'm going to wait for a couple of seconds, let a couple of you jump in here. If you miss this live, just watch it. You can ask questions in the comments here if you have any questions. But here, I just want to make Kerf so easy, okay? So right here, this is an example of a slot, okay? It's huge just so you can see it. And let's say that this slot is 1 inch across, like this way here, okay? 1 inch across, all right? So if you cut this with a saw or with a laser or with any cutting instrument, the cutting instrument, like your saw, for example, the blade has a thickness, right? So let's say this is your saw blade. And if you take that saw and you cut right down the middle of that line all the way around, what'll happen is this 1 inch rectangle, I'm going to exaggerate so you can see it on the video, will end up being cut like this. See if you guys can see that. Just a second. You see that the blade will travel like that all the way around and make this wider than 1 inch. So let me know in the comments if you understand that so far, because that's the thickness of your blade. It goes around like that, right down the middle of the line, right? So what you learn when you use a saw is that if you want this to stay 1 inch, then you put your blade on the outside of that line like this, so that it leaves that 1 inch all the way around. I'm sorry, on the inside, my bad. On the inside, right? So that it leaves that all the way around so that the cut actually happens right there. Sorry, lefty in the way. Right there, right? I think we all know that from using a saw, okay? The exact same thing happens with your laser. It has a thickness, and it's not wide, but there is a thickness. And hear me out, as an average, the thickness of your laser is somewhere around 0.005 inches. It's somewhere around that, okay? But when that goes around there, it's adding 0.005 width out this direction, and then out that direction, and then out that direction, and then out that direction, okay? So it's making it just a little bit bigger when it goes around. So on the average, what happens is when you cut that 1 inch slot right there, I know it's huge, it ends up being 1.01, again, on the average, because it's adding 0.005 here, 0.005 here, 0.005 here, 0.005 here. So it's wider than you originally intended for it to be, okay? Forget the math. Let me know in the comments, do you follow what I'm saying? Don't worry about the numbers at all. Do you follow that it's getting bigger because the laser is this wide, right? It's wider than your line. So it's taking a little bit off on the inside, a little bit off on the outside, and it's making it bigger. Let me know in the comments if you understand what I'm saying, okay? So what we need to do then is we need to make this, since we can't actually, technically we can't move the laser, if you follow what I mean, we're going to move it by making this box, instead of 1 inch, let me flip this over, we're going to make a slot that is straight and not crazy wonky like that. We want it to come out to be 1 inch, so instead we're going to make it 0.99 if our kerf is 0.01, right? So that way, when it travels all the way around, it leaves us with 1 inch when we're all done. You follow me? It's really easy when you look at it that way. You realize, oh, my laser's going to make it a little bit bigger. So therefore, we make the slot a little bit smaller so that when it goes around, it actually ends up exactly what I want. Now, 0.1 is basically, if your laser is this wide, then 0.01, which is, by the way, is double that, ends up being how much wider you make this slot. That is an average. Yeah, I see somebody said, I'm sorry, I can't see your name, but you said subtract the laser width from it. Yes, that's exactly right. And so you're going to make, thank you, Victor. So you're going to make the slot, the laser width smaller so that when the laser travels around, it ends up leaving it the size you wanted. So once you realize the concept, forget the math. Forget the math, forget the math, forget the math. Once you understand the concept, then you're going to get it really, really quick, okay? Because a lot of you are letting the math hang you up. Don't worry about the math yet. If you understand the idea that we need to make this slot slightly smaller so that the laser can make it larger, then we're almost home already. So what I want you to do, I'm going to keep writing on all these. This is great. So now, what I want you to do is I want you to get on your laser and I want you to make a 1-inch square, okay? 1-inch square. And I want you to cut that out and then take your calipers and measure it. Doesn't matter if you go this way or this way, but you measure it with your calipers. And what you're going to find out is that it's going to be smaller than an inch, because that laser, remember what we talked about? That laser removes a little bit all the way around. So it's going to be somewhere around 0.99. It may not be exactly that, but it's going to be close. So you know that your kerf, like we talked about earlier, is somewhere around 0.005, or whatever the difference is between that and 1, right? So it's 0.005 here, 0.005 here, and so forth. So all you have to do, the next thing I want you to do, after you've cut that 1-inch square, I want you to cut one more square that is 1 inch plus whatever the difference was here. So in that case, I want you to cut it at 1.01. Follow me? And then I bet you if you measure this square, it's going to be exactly 1 inch. And that teaches you what kerf is. Now that you know this, all you've got to do is edit your slots. So you'll measure your material, right? I'm running out of places to write. You'll measure your material like this piece right here. This piece, I believe, measures, if I remember right, it measures 0.23, okay? This piece that I'm holding in my hand right there. So if my kerf is 0.005, and I want this piece of wood to fit into a slot, obviously not this big, I'm going to make my slot, you ready? I'm going to make it 0.22, because that way, when the laser travels around, this piece of wood is going to fit nice and tight. Hey, Natasha, good to see you. It's going to fit nice and tight, okay? I think you guys all got it now. It's really, really easy. Now, are there times when occasionally you just brain farted or the measurement wasn't quite right? Yes. But once you realize how all this works, it's really easy. And I will tell you, without exception, every time that I've messed up a slot now, it's only because I wasn't thinking, I was distracted, something like I haven't had lunch, something like that, because it's always really easy, okay? The one other thing that can totally throw you off is some materials, of course, can vary from batch to batch or even from sheet to sheet. So every now and again, you'll get a piece that's like this one might measure 0.23, and the next one you get might be 0.235. And that's definitely enough to screw up a really tight fit. Acrylic's another one that does that because of the way it's made. You can even have this end of the acrylic measure different from that end. So that does throw you off a little bit. But the big home run here is, now that you guys have watched this video and you understand what kerf is, you're almost done now. And I want to tell you, look at me. I love all of you so much. You absolutely can master this, and you will. You absolutely will. This is really easy. And don't say you're bad at math, because there's really not a lot of math going on here. It's really, really simple. So I'm excited to hear in the comments about all the people who have mastered it. So what you're going to do is you're going to go and you're going to cut a 1-inch square, measure it with your calipers, You're going to see what the difference is. Let's say it's 0.99. Then your difference is 0.01. Okay. You're going to go cut another square that's 1.01 or whatever the difference is. And cut another one, measure it again. It should be 1 inch. It should be 1 inch. If it is, you now know that this is the amount that you're going to add to your slots from now on to make it fit. Sorry, not add, subtract, my fault, to make it fit. Hopefully you guys followed me there. Now my slot sizer, the reason that works is when you cut the slot sizer on your machine, kerf is happening when you cut it, right? So when you've got that slot sizer, you know that the newest ones I made are shaped like this, right? Where they've got these slots like this. When you cut that slot sizer and it's cutting these slots, kerf is happening as you're cutting it. So when this says, I'm going to write really big, but when this says 0.2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, and so on right here, that's how 2, 2 cuts. That's how 2, 3 cuts. That's how 2, 4 cuts. So when you put a piece of material through that slot there, that's how 2, 2 is going to cut. And so when you test it, you go, oh, that's what I need. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to stop talking. I think those examples I just gave should make everybody say, I got it. Doesn't mean you won't occasionally struggle. Doesn't mean you won't occasionally have questions or screw something up. But now that you understand what kerf is and how it works, you should be able to rock 99 out of 100 of these, okay? I love you guys. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you have any questions whatsoever, hit me up in the comments, message me. I am here for your success, and I promise you there's not a single person in this group that can't completely master it in seconds once you realize what it is. Have a great night. I just had to stop. I got to get back to watching some football now. But if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll take care of you. This group, we are all going to teach all the other groups how kerf works. Take care. I'll see you in the group and in the comments.